Hello and welcome to another Flopzilla Pro video. This time we're looking at one of my calling ranges versus an open raiser, but we're also going to dive into the break-even math for calling as well as the hotness feature of Flopzilla Pro. Let's roll. Alrighty, on the screen in front of you is Flopzilla Pro. And I already have it expanded for multiplayer mode, which was this button right here. I can click it to go back to single player. And I also have it expanded to the group filtering mode instead of just the classic single filter mode right here. So we're not just going to enter hands in willy-nilly or ranges willy-nilly. We're actually going to look at a range, or I'm sorry, at a hand that I played that I wanted to do a little review with all of y'all with. So we've got Jack 10 suited on the button right here. Now, I've already moved down the HUD stats for the three players that don't matter. It's just us, and they call me Lions. Loose aggressive player, as judging by their 36/19 VPIP and PFR. C-bet a ton. They don't C-bet the flop all that much. Fold on the flop a lot. But they don't fold on the turn all that much. Pretty interesting player right here. Pretty turn honest when it comes to C-betting. Flop honest when it comes to facing C-bet. So, let's see the action. They open raise. We'll just say 3 big blinds. It's pretty close, but actually, no, we won't say 3 big blinds. I'm sorry. We need to be exact here. 28-cent open raise, almost 3 big blinds. We get a fold, and then now it's up to us. Are we going to call? Are we going to fold? Are we going to 3-bet? We'll see what happens in just a little bit. But before we decide whether or not to make the call, let's take a look at the break-even math on making a call right here. So I've already whipped out my little Excel spreadsheet. Now, here is the break-even calling math formula. The break-even percentage is the amount of the call, which in this case, it's 28 cents, divided by the total pot, which is the pot, 0.15 cents from the small and big blind, their 28-cent bet, and our 28-cent call. That means the break-even point is 28 divided by 71 cents, or 39%. So our hand needs 39% versus their pre-flop open raising range in order to make a break-even call. That means we're not losing, nor are we winning money if our equity is exactly 39%. If it's 39.1%, we're making money. If it's 38.9%, we're losing money, and it's a negative EV play. So let's see what Jack 10 suited is versus this player's range. First, well, we could just look at 26% raising first in or 19% PFR. But when I am doing hand reading off the felt, I actually want to be as exact as I can. Now, against They Call Me Lions, we have 883 hands, a really good amount, so we can trust a lot of their stats. Let's take a look at my pop-up right here, the raise first in stats by position. This player is in the MP currently. They've got 25%. So what I want to do is build out a 25% open raising range. Let's start with all pocket pairs, 6% right there. Let's add the broadways. We're at 18%. Now, this is where we got to start thinking about the type of player, their position, and just use some logic, what you see a lot of your opponents open raising with. We could go as far as actually looking at these notes, which pops up, to look at all of their different, there's their call, 2-bet, and just various ranges by position. But I don't really want to use those right now. I'd rather just build it out by percentage to see how accurate we are, or maybe not. So let's go all the way down to 6-5 suited. That's at 21%. They're probably opening every single ace. Maybe not every single offsuit ace, but let's tack those on. Let's see what we get. 30%, quite a bit too big. Maybe we can drop some of these right here. 30%. Let's add the King 9. Let's take away all of those offsuit aces that people do like to fold quite often. Maybe he's not actually opening those hands. That gives us a little bit of wiggle room right here. Let's add back some of those offsuit aces. Let's go down as far as that. Maybe not these. You know, this is kind of a, when I'm creating range, it's kind of a trial and error. I'm adding hands, subtracting hands, and building out a range that feels right, their ultimate range that they would be raising from their given position. I think that feels pretty good, 25% range. Occasionally they might throw in a Jack Deuce or a 10-5 suited, but that's probably not a standard hand for them to raise. So we'll leave those off right there. So against this range, remember, in order to call, to break even, we need 39% equity. So how well does our Jack 10 suited fare versus this range? I'm going to be working with ranges as a total, my entire range throughout this video. So let's start by just adding a second range to this, and we'll simply select Jack 10 suited. Eventually, I'll add all the different hands that we're calling with in this position versus this racer. But as you can see, when we call with Jack 10 suited, 43.5% equity. We have the requisite equity to make the call, right? Now, that doesn't mean 3-betting is bad or folding is bad, depending on the situation, depending on who these players are, depending on how often they love to barrel the flop turn in the river. We might want to fold this one, just depending on the situation. But I'm totally down, and I'm happy with my call right here. Now, these players fold, so it's just heads up. We're in position as the pre-flop caller with Jack 10 suited. We'll look at ranges in a little bit, but let's go through this hand now. On this flop, 994, flopping the flush draw, 2 overcards. 9 of diamonds, heart, and the 4 of hearts. So on this board, our equity drops to 31%. Not the best situation, especially if we're chasing to a flush on a paired board, right? Because, man, paired boards mean full houses could potentially beat if we do catch that flush. But let's see what happens here. They bet 45 cents. Now, one of the things that I wanted to show you too, actually, was before we get to this part, Poker Tracker 4 does this great thing where it tells you the odds and the percentage that you need to make that break-even call. So we calculated it as 39% over here. But Flopzilla, when you're reviewing a hand, does it right there for you. And those numbers, it's basic formulas right here. It's never going to be wrong. I've never seen it wrong. It's just the computer doing its math, you know. So there's a 39% as well. But let's go ahead and see that flop. On that flop, 45 cents. In order for us to call to try to win that entire pot of $1.61, we need 28% equity. Now, if we think a flush could potentially beat them, we have 9 full outs right there. 9 outs hits on the next street, one of those outs, 18% of the time. And we just use the ×2 rule for that right there. So we have 18% equity right now, or an 18% chance to hit our hand. But we also have the Jack and the 10 for 6 additional outs. The 3 non-heart outs, non-heart Jack outs, and the 3 non-heart 10 outs, for a total number of outs now of 9 plus 6, or 15 outs. If we multiply that by 2, we're going to hit one of those hands 30% of the time, which means we are making a profitable call. Now, that's if we think they could be betting right here with ace king, ace queen, pocket sevens, pocket deuces, ace 5 offsuit, all the different kinds of things that they could have been raising pre-flop. I just said ace 5 offsuit. I didn't mean that. Ace 8 offsuit, ace 4 suited, those kinds of, ace 4, we would beat them if we hit a jack, right? Yeah, so maybe we do actually have 15 outs. So making this call is not a bad play. We're also in position and we get to assess on the turn. Remember what I said before? They are turn honest when it comes to c-betting. As soon as he checks on the turn, if we whiff it, bam, we make a bet and hopefully take this puppy down. 6 of spades comes, doesn't help anybody at all. And he barrels right here for a little under 2/3 pot. We still have that draw. We need 28% equity to call. We have 30% if we still think the jack or the 10 is good. So we make the call. River comes a 10. We hit that top pair hand. Things are looking really good. They bet just a measly $1 again. Now, they could be trying to suck us in. Maybe they have a 9 or something, or maybe they have the overpair of pocket aces. Now they're slow playing, hoping that we shove over the top and they're going to call. Maybe they just rivered a full house, 10s full of 9s. I mean, there's a lot of hands in their range that just now completed on this board. But just in case we did hit that top pair, it's one of the outs that we were drawing to, we would be foolish to not call this tiny little bet. Now, thinking about the break-even formula again, the amount of call divided by the total pot. We only have to call $1 to try to win a total pot of $5.61. We only need 18%. That means we only need to win 1 out of 5. If they're doing any kind of bluff with this small bet, like ace king or ace queen right now, we're totally winning at least 20% of the time. So we make the call, And they end up with pocket eights, and that was one of the hands that we put in their pre-flop range. And if we go back through the hand, we can see totally pocket eights are going to c-bet here. One street at least, hoping we fold. We didn't. The 6 comes, they're going to make that small, just $1 bet. Yes, and then we call. Makes sense that they bet. And on this river, they're just going to do one final little tiny bluff attempt. It doesn't work. We take that bad boy down. All right, so that's just going through the hand and looking at the break-even calling percentage on each of those streets. Now, we are, of course, playing just the Jack 10 suited. Let's clear the board here. We're playing just the Jack 10 suited. But what is our overall calling range on the button right now? Let's take a look at that. So I have my KISS cash game ranges, which I talk about in episode number 255 and then 256 when it comes to calling. Now, one of my calling ranges is when I'm on the button versus an early position open raise. And let's go ahead and build that range. We'll end up putting the Jack 10 suited in, but I just wanted to show you step by step what it is. Now, it's jacks through deuces. Put the pocket pairs in. Of course, I'm 3-betting queens or better right here. The other calling hands are ace queen through ace jack. And I'll actually toss in the ace 10 suited as part of my calls. I like calling with king queen right here. Remember, I'm on the button, some of the strongest hands with the best position, so I'm calling. King jack suited I call. I don't really call the king jack offsuit though. But I also call with some lovely suited connectors, the strongest suited connectors besides ace king, queen jack through 10-9. So that's my overall calling range of roughly 10% when I'm in the best position. Now, you can see against their wide 25% open raising range, we have 53% equity when we're calling here. And that is way more than the necessary break-even point of 39% equity. So things are looking really good at this point. Now, when we think about this range, if we wanted to go wider, it really looks like we could start adding some hands. Do we want to call with king jack, queen jack, and ace 10? Well, maybe. Our equity is still above the necessary amount of 39%. Totally, things are looking good. What if we call ace 9 and ace 8? What if we call all the suited aces? Well, our total range's equity is still 50%. What if we like a queen 10 and a 9-8 all the way through the 7-6 right there? What if we like to take chances sometimes and call the jack 10 offsuit? The entire range still has 49% equity. But let's look at the equity of those individual hands that we just added. And when we're calling, we want our equity of each hand to be over 39%. And instead of adding each hand one at a time to this, we can simply come over to the equity matrix. So if we look at this, once again, we need that 39% equity to make a call. 7-6 suited is below that. 8-7 right at the threshold. 9-8 just barely above. So maybe it would be fine to ditch those hands. Our overall equity is now roughly 50%, but we ditched some of those almost break-even calling hands. Look at that, 39%, and jack 10 offsuit is 40%. Let's get rid of that. The queen jack and king jack, sure, we can keep those in. The offsuit aces right here, the fact that we're calling also blocks them from having some ace king, ace queen, pocket aces, ace jack kind of hands. It's not the end of the world keeping those ones in. All these suited aces, not too shabby. And then let's keep the queen 10 suited in at 44%. Great. And then the king jack at 46%. So we can totally open our range up a little bit here in order to call them a little bit more frequently to put the pressure on them post-flop. And it might be a good idea doing this, especially seeing as how he is flop honest when it comes to c-betting. If we see more flops against him, we could start trying to take it away more often when he's checking the turn right there. But another consideration, before we open our range up too much, what if this player was right here? Oh, and actually that is that player. And then let's see here. Oki is right here. And then this player already folded. We don't need to think about them. Once we make the call, look at these players. Loose aggressive. Loose could be a little bit more aggressive, but pretty loose aggressive as well. They both like to 3-bet a lot. Our call entices them to 3-bet. So that's one consideration. We might not want to be calling with some of these weaker hands right here that we just, or king jack was already in. We not want to call with some of these. We might not want to call with some of these that we just added, because by calling and seeing more flops, when we've got these lags in the blinds, we're just asking for more trouble, because they have a great opportunity, if we're calling that wide, to 3-bet squeeze against us. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you is the hotness scale right here. So this is what actually did happen. They folded. We saw the flop of 9-9-4 once again. Heart, heart, and was it a club? a diamond. Nice. So on this board again, you can see now the hotness matrix, some hands populated on it. Now, before we make this flop call, we might want to think about what hands really do help our entire range, or just our individual hand. And I want to go back to just the individual hand here. So on this range, let's do just Jack 10 suited. It'll simplify this hotness scale for us. So on this board, if we look at the hotness here, for this range, this hotness tells us what hands help our range and what hands really hurt our range. As you can see, because we have 2 hearts, all of the hearts right here help us. Not all of them, but most of the hearts help us, right? These ones could be iffy depending on what our opponent has. 6 and a 5 and a 3 and a deuce, they turn a full house on us, you know, that kind of thing. But in general, all of these green hands really do help us a lot. Now, the Jack of clubs, Jack of diamonds, Jack of spades helps us as well, because now we suddenly flopped that flush. Actually, you know, let's give us exactly the Jack 10 of hearts. Let me show you this little function as well. Jack 10 right there. And that's going to allow our hotness meter to make even more sense, right? So now, of course, all the green hands are good for the current range that we're on. We love any of the hearts, we love the Jack, and we love the 10. Our opponent, on the other hand, well, they love everything except for those cards, right? So when that 6 of spades, which is what ended up coming, I think it was, yeah, 6 of spades on the turn, that actually helped them quite a bit. Now, on that 6 of spades, the same cards are still bad for them right here. But for us, exact same thing again. Those hearts are still great, and the Jack and the 10 still really help us. So that's how you use the hotness scale. Sometimes you get into a situation and you're not really exactly sure what cards could help us, what help their range more. The hotness scale helps you determine exactly which ones help you or help them out. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you spending your time with me, some of your study time, that is, with me. So if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, ding that bell for notifications, and give me a thumbs up. I always love the thumbs ups. And then right now, you can see that video popped up. Click on that for some more Flopzilla goodness. I'll catch you on the felt.